This is going to be a review of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. How's it going, everybody? I am Space Ferrari 248, or Alex Ferranti here, going to discuss my personal thoughts on Rogue One. I saw this movie with two of my buddies, and I didn't even have massive hype for this movie either. Just like how I wasn't entirely hyped for The Force Awakens, because I still have the mindset that the movies still could possibly suck ass and become a letdown, which The Force Awakens was not, by the way. But unfortunately, so far The Force Awakens, but fortunately, I meant to say, so far, The Force Awakens and Rogue One didn't suck. Both of my friends didn't even get teased or shown any trailers, so they both went to the theaters blind. I already knew this was going to be how they got the Death Star plans, but I always tried to ignore and look away from anything else from spoilers, which is the reason why I disable my Facebook account temporarily to avoid spoilers on Facebook. Which, by the way, for 2 years ago, The Force Awakens, some numbnut thought it would be funny to directly spoil it to me via Facebook message, by the way. Rogue One is honestly a great movie, but unfortunately there are some problems that made me dazed out of the movie a little, but I'll get to that later as I'm going to discuss the positives. Here's one nitpicking thought. I don't know if it's really nitpicking, but whatever. There's no Star Wars call. Like, seriously? That's kind of blah, but the introduction is pretty damn cool. Director Krennic is a fantastic bad guy. He looks absolutely intimidating in the intro of this movie. He is wicked brutal. The shot of the shuttle flying towards the planet looks beautiful too, not to mention the haunting shuttle sound effect engine or whatever. I also like how the entire movie they show the name of every single planet, so we're not scratching our heads trying to figure out where we are in the film. But what I don't like is that they didn't name the planet Mustafar during the Vader scene, which really annoyed me. I didn't even know that was Mustafar, to be honest, until I saw the scene selection for the Rogue One Blu-ray, saying that it is Mustafar. Somebody told me that they didn't do that. Somebody tell me why they didn't do that? It just seems kind of awkward. They didn't put the name of the planet known as Mustafar in the theatrical version of the movie. It really did kind of hurt. It really did hurt my brain for a brief moment. Anyways, enough with those nitpicks. I like the direction they took with the story, too. Director Krennic kills the mother of Jyn Erso and the wife of Galen Erso, Lyra Erso. So out of revenge, Galen puts a flaw in the Death Star. In other words, exposes the weakness of Director Krennic's creation out of revenge for killing Galen's wife. He actually built the exhaust port to the main reactor out of revenge, no less. It now makes perfect sense that why the Death Star plans expose the weapon's weakness in the first place, too. It adds a new layer to A New Hope. It now makes perfect sense. However, in some cases, in both terms of story, characters, there were a lot of missed opportunities, such as not exploring the backstory and motivations of Cheru. He was a very unique character, a very serious and passionate blind human being about the Force. A very serious, let me try that again, a very serious and passionate blind human being about the Force. His motto, "I am one with the Force and the Force is with me," is great. A quote to put on a bumper sticker to your car or on a poster in your room. He's a character we've never really seen before in the Star Wars universe. The soundtrack was also even more disappointing than The Force Awakens. While The Force Awakens didn't have the best soundtrack, it at least has songs you would recognize exactly what scene it's from, other than Rey's theme, which is the best and most well-known track from The Force Awakens. Farewell in the Trip, March of the Resistance, Jedi Steps in the finale, The Scavenger, which is the same thing as Rey's theme, though. The opening score, I Can Fly Anything, were the good tracks of The Force Awakens. I can tell which scenes they were used in every single time I listened to. But Rogue One? Your father would have been proud of you as a good track, and the track titled Hope were the ones that really stood out to me, especially the one titled Hope. You guys probably know why. However, to be fair to the composer known as Michael, don't remember his last name, by the way, he only had a few months to create the score, so I'll give him a pass on that for now. Rogue One, unfortunately, had quite amount of sluggish, slow, and dull parts in the movie throughout. Sometimes the movie had trouble finding its tone and pace, and because of that, I unfortunately became very little invested in a lot of the characters. I did love the characters, though. Jyn my bad. Cassian, Cheru, Baze, and of course my favorite character, K2SO, are great. It's just that most of the time when the movie had trouble finding its pace or didn't know what to do, I felt less invested in the characters. And that's not what you should have in the movie. Don't get me wrong, it's still a great movie, but there were a ton of missed opportunities. It at least didn't have heavily and annoyingly rely on how the war came to be and the nonsensical politics that are completely useless to care about. Looking at you, prequels. Even though Rogue One is a prequel, but whatever. It wasn't supposed to be anyway, as it was a war movie, not a political movie. I do like Rogue One a lot, it's just that it kind of annoys me. It has problems even worse so than The Force Awakens seemingly did to a lot of fans. It even had more unnecessary callbacks than The Force Awakens ever did. Sometimes The Force Awakens callbacks were justified, but Rogue One, especially when Dr. Evan Zan showed up on Jedha, the hell was he even doing on Jedha in the first place? I'm not against callbacks or anything, but when you force characters like that into a film with no story behind it, only for the sake of shoving old characters in our face, it's unnecessary. More unnecessary than what The Force Awakens supposedly did wrong. If C-3PO and R2-D2 were shown getting onto the Tantive 4, I would have forgiven that scene with them in the bunker more. Showing us old characters for the sake of fan appeasement with no story to go along with it gets pretty annoying. You shouldn't shove characters in our faces when the entire movie is a callback to the setting and timeline of the original trilogy. Anyways, enough with the negatives. Maybe? Are the negatives over yet? Let's move on to the positives some more. I'm gonna say it. I don't see anything wrong with the CGI Tarkin and Leia. As for the Tarkin and Leia CGI stuff, I thought they were different actors with an intense amount of makeup at first. But no, it's CGI. And I honestly thought it wasn't quite bad, but when 2025 comes, I might say different depending how bad it could age. We'll see though. But right now, it doesn't bother me too bad. Rogue One I absolutely appreciate for trying a lot of new spin on things, and even a little bit more so than The Force Awakens, but unfortunately it's not quite as engaging with the characters as it was in The Force Awakens, let alone the execution was not as amazing. Gareth Edwards did a decent job. He did a great job at capturing the tone of Star Wars and more movies in general. But I've said this a million times. If your new spin on things is poorly executed with absolutely no story nor substance, then it's useless to care about at all. And I'm not saying Rogue One doesn't have a story nor substance. It does. But the characters just didn't have the same fun as the ones from the original trilogy and The Force Awakens. Not to mention, Rogue One had more missed opportunities than The Force Awakens. I was mainly invested into the characters in Rogue One on the final battle, which could not have been done any better and is even better than the aerial battle against the Starkiller base in The Force Awakens, because they embraced a different... Hold on a second. My bad. I fully admit that. I fully admit it's better than the Starkiller base dogfight. Honestly, I believe this movie relies far more on writing Episode 4's coattails than The Force Awakens does. Rogue One just feels different because they embraced a different cinematic style, but the script was kinda sorta lacking. First act was really good, second act was solid, third act was eh. Fourth act was fucking awesome. The action in this movie was definitely spot on. It couldn't have been done any better than I would have made it. It was full-blown Star Wars. It was exactly the way I expected Rogue One to have in stores for us. Bullseye and a multi-kill. Not to get too nitpicky, but after the aerial assault on Eadu, why couldn't the rebellion just shoot down, or shoot at, my bad, at Director Krennic's ship while it's on land? That would have gave them an advantage. Stupid rebels. But meh, I'm just kidding, guys. It's just a really pointless and dumb nitpick that should not be cared about. The humor was pretty great, too. Let me play the top 5 clips that gave me enthusiastic giggles.
The rebels! They went over there.
Kay, what's going on out there?
There's one. Ah, well.
Hyperspace tracking, navigational system.
I'll be there for you. Cassian said I had to.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, Director.
Did you know that wasn't me?
Of course.
By the way, in the defense of the X-Wings shooting down those so-called AT-ATs or AT-ATs, which they're actually called AT-ACs or AT-ACTs, those are not the same as the AT-ATs you saw in Empire Strikes Back. Those new AT-ACTs are different, only with the same body shape. Their purpose was to unload cargoes. AT-ATs are more for assaulting than the AT-ACTs you saw in Rogue One. So that's why in Empire Strikes Back, they, meaning the AT-ATs or AT-ATs, whatever, were too strong for blasters unlike the AT-ACTs. You know, just because they have the same body shape and model doesn't literally make either of them the same. They both had different purposes. Jyn Erso's crying and upset emotions when listening to her father's message about the hidden plans on Scarif telling her to save the rebellion was great too, and kind of heartfelt too, and even more heartfelt when Galen Erso died in her hands, seeing Jyn Erso grown up. When he sees her for the first time in years, yeah, that is kind of heartfelt there, that Jyn Erso sadly watched her father die after seeing him not many years. At least 15 years is from what I remember in the film. The visual effects when the Death Star blasts Jedha was great too. And it was definitely interesting to see how the blast was played out as a nuke as opposed to the entire planet blowing up. Let Director Krennic tell you how good the visual effects are.
Oh, it's beautiful.
The escape from the blast was an intense ride too. I know a lot of people wanted more of Darth Vader in this movie, but we needed to, again, get the light on the new characters and new story. I mean, a lot of the main characters didn't get explored enough, but the point still remains that it's kind of good Vader took a back seat and waited till the extra special moment at the end, which I'll talk about in the last part of the video. Fun fact, this is the first Star Wars movie to not have a lightsaber fight. It lacks Vader quantity, but has a very high Darth Vader quality. When Bail Organa mentioned Obi-Wan Kenobi in Rogue One, I honestly have a hard time resisting the chills. The death that hit me the hardest was pretty much K2SO's death. Told Cassian and Jyn Erso they needed to climb to get the plans to the Death Star as he was being shot and attacked by stormtroopers. And then when he knew that he couldn't fight back any longer, he just simply said goodbye, then exploded, then the light in his eyes faded to black. Pretty saddening death. Another death in a movie that hit me hard, and that character wasn't even human. Shades of Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And WALL-E. I absolutely love the final battle, like I said a ton of times in this video. It's the exact way I wanted it to be. The massive swarm of TIE fighters headed towards the Rebellion fleet. The feel of Vietnam warfare. The guerrilla warfare, no less, in the Star Wars universe. Taking out stormtroopers by surprise. The sacrifice to shove one Star Destroyer into another. Man, that scene gave me chills. That's one of the best parts in the entire movie, but not the number one best part, which I'll get to shortly, like I said earlier. The sacrifice to destroy the shield generator by shoving a Star Destroyer into another was absolutely intense, just to transmit the plans. You know, the on-foot Battle of Scarif now blows the on-foot Battle of Endor out of the water. And Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie, by the way, just to clear it up. The space battle doesn't 100% beat the one from Return of the Jedi, but it's definitely up there. When you look at the opening crawl for A New Hope, you now can't help but to think of the Battle of Scarif. When you read that the Rebellion won their first battle against the evil Empire, and when you read the Rebel Spies part, you now can't at all help it but to think of Cassian, Jyn Erso, and K2SO. You now view A New Hope a different way than ever before. And thanks to the Star Destroyer for appearing out of nowhere in front of the Rebellion fleet in this movie alone, it now actually makes sense why the Rebellion fleet is smaller than it looked in A New Hope and during the Battle of Yavin. It links up so damn well. I love the idea of Jyn Erso and Cassian accepting their fate as soon as the Star Destroyer. Death Star. What the fuck am I saying? My bad. As soon as the Death Star appeared into the picture, letting Krennic die by the hands of his own creation was great. Let karma bite him in the ass by his own creation. Better than revenge. Jyn and Cassian accepting their fate for the greater good, sacrificing their lives to save the galaxy from their ultimate weapon known as the Death Star and the evil Empire. Fortunately, I wish I cared more and wish there was a lot more depth to these characters. And not to nitpick or anything, but didn't Krennic land his shuttle on the planet? Wasn't there a ship for them to steal and just fly away from the apocalypse from the Death Star? I like the idea of sacrifice, but well, whatever. There probably wasn't enough time for them anyway. Some people prior to the movie release thought Jyn was the mother of Rey. Well, that's not gonna be a logical or accurate theory now, since Jyn Erso and Cassian have died before they even had the chance to conceive a child. So that's theory dead! Now on to my favorite scene of the entire movie. Darth Vader's rampage on the rebels. This got me on the edge of my seat. This is one of the best scenes of all time. I think everyone here, even the people that didn't like the movie, can agree with me that on this scene being one of the best scenes in Star Wars history. Darth Vader slaughtered like 13 rebels. We never saw something like that before. Well, actually we did in Revenge of the Sith, but kept getting cut non-stop by political nonsense, even though it was about the reformation of, the Republic being reorganized to the Empire, but whatever. Darth Vader didn't say, scream, or shout anything, and not to mention didn't do flips and twirls in the hallway, just slowly walking as he defects the bullets, force chokes, and forces a rebel to the ceiling, then slices him, force pulling the guns out of their hands, then slicing them to bits and pieces. That scene was beyond intense. The reaction from the rebels was priceless. Trying to kill Darth Vader and he just walks and stays silent. Trying to kill Darth Vader as he just walks and stays silent and murders. Rebels went from yelling, "Help us," trying to get the door open to escape, but as soon as he realizes he is going to die, he yells, "Take it! Take it!" That was pretty damn dark. They sacrificed their lives to keep the plans saved from Darth Vader and the evil Empire. Then the rebels escape to the blockade runner. Moments later, the scene shows Captain Antilles giving the plans to Leia. I honestly thought that was pretty deep that Leia said hope right before Rogue One ended, eventually leading into the movie that started the whole saga. So overall, I give Rogue One an 8 out of 10. It is great. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like this video, or if you watch any other videos of mine and want to consider yourself a subscriber, be my guest. Space out, everyone. And may the Force be with you.